Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Today is Wednesday, May 28th, and we are glad you are joining us here today. The evangelist Wanda Lawrence was not able to attend, so we'll begin with an invocation by Alderman J.R. Gorham.
If you would pray according to your faith and tradition, and I will pray according to mine. Dear Lord, we come to you today with thanksgiving on our hearts, thanking you for this day that you have made and rejoicing and being glad in it. We thank you for all you have assembled here today for this Board of Aldermen meeting. We ask for your holy guidance, your infinite wisdom as we go forth to conduct the business of the town of Kernersville, so that everything that will take place this evening will be done decently and in order. We thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us individually and as a community in town. Continue to be with us here in Kernersville. Continue to wrap your arms of protection around us. We thank you for what you have done. We thank you for what you are doing right now. And we thank you for those things that yet to manifest in our lives. And for that, dear Lord, we give your name all the praise, all the honor, and all the glory. And let all that agree with that prayer say, amen.
Thank you, Alderman Gorham. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Well, it's very exciting here tonight. If you're not here in person and watching, it's a very exciting night for East Forsyth High School. We are recognizing East Forsyth High School Social Studies Retiree Day. These are teachers who are longtime teachers in the community who have been at East Forsyth High School for a number of years. And I would say that in the past 25 or more years, if you have gone to East Forsyth High School yourself and graduated from there, or had a child at East Forsyth High School, it is very likely that your child or you have had one or more classes from this group of 3 teachers that we're recognizing tonight. Mr. Scott Sapp, Ms. Lori Smith, and Mr. Chad Lawrence. So I'll begin with Ms. Smith. If you'll come forward, please. You know, the way to change the world in the future is to touch the life of a child today, and you certainly have done that. I've been amazed at your skills as being a coach for the academic team, and what I didn't know is that you had been the department head for a number of years, including with the other 2 gentlemen that we're recognizing tonight. But as mayor and on behalf of the Board of Aldermen, we're just so excited for you for your retirement and your future. Whereas it is fitting and appropriate to recognize individuals in Kernersville who have made significant contributions in education to the community, whereas Ms. Lori Smith was hired for the 95-96 school year by Dr. Judy Grissom, and in her 30 years as a teacher at East, taught world history, U.S. history, fast forward U.S. history, which was a dual enrollment program with UNCG, psychology, AP psychology, Western humanities, and economics and personal finance. Whereas Ms. Smith served as the Social Studies Department Chair from 1997 to 2013, she was the academic team head coach and social studies coach, whereas Ms. Smith was recognized as East Forsyth High School Teacher of the Year for 0809 and top 4 finalist for the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools Teacher of the Year. Whereas Ms. Smith was chosen as an outstanding teacher by the top 20 seniors in 2000 and 2015 and educated students in a variety of classes that taught essential critical thinking skills, all the while inspiring students to learn, to achieve, and to grow as individuals. Now, therefore, I, Dawn Morgan, as mayor of the town of Kernersville, and on behalf of the Board of Aldermen, do hereby recognize Ms. Lori Smith and congratulate her on East Forsyth High School Social Studies Retirees Day for 30 years of teaching at East and for the tremendous positive influence she has had on so many students as a teacher and as an academic team coach during her longtime service. And we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Congratulations. Would you like to say something? Do you recognize the family? Thank you so much. And we have a very small gift for you, so you can fondly remember Kernersville. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Chad Lawrence. All this without a table. It's like... All right, it is our honor to recognize you as well tonight for 29 years teaching and coaching. Most of that time, or all of that time?
23 coaching.
23 years of coaching. So if your child played soccer at East, or if you watched a soccer game, you watched a team that Mr. Lawrence coached. Mr. Chad Lawrence was hired in 1996 by Dr. Judy Grissom, and in his 29 years as a teacher at East, taught U.S. history and ELPS, which became civics and economics, and then became civic literacy. Whereas Mr. Lawrence coached JV soccer, men and women, for 2 years, and then became head coach for both sports, serving as men's head coach for 11 years and women's head coach for 20 years. Whereas Mr. Lawrence was recognized as North Carolina State Coach of the Year in 2004, Boys North Carolina East-West All-Star Game Coach in 2004, Girls Clash at the Carolinas All-Star Game Coach in 2008. Whereas Mr. Lawrence was recognized as Teacher of the Year in 2009 and inducted into the East Forsyth Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2023 and taught countless students essential life skills of sportsmanship, perseverance, and dedication, and taught foundational courses essential for an informed citizenry. Now, therefore, I, Dawn Morgan, as mayor of the town of Kernersville, and on behalf of the Board of Aldermen, do recognize you, Mr. Lawrence, and hereby congratulate you on East Forsyth High School Social Studies Retirees Day for 29 years of teaching at East, and for the tremendous positive influence you have had on so many students as a teacher and coach during your longtime service, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you. Here. Do you want to speak?
It's been an honor to work in Kernersville and East Forsyth for 29 years, so thank you all very much as well.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Scott Sapp, who, by the way, we're not quite letting him go. He's on the Kernersville Planning Board, so your dreams of retirement are a little too soon. Mr. Sapp was hired in 1991 by Principal Gene Moore, and in his 34 years as a teacher at East, taught world history, United States history for 21 years, Bible history for 30 years, AP United States history, which we all lovingly refer to as APUSH, since 2012, and AP government and politics, because you have to have an acronym. We think of it as AP GOPO. And I know a student who was a friend of my son who took 3 of those classes. So you had a lot of repeat students in many of what you offered and taught, which I think speaks volumes as well. Mr. Sapp coached a variety of sports, including women's basketball, JV men's baseball, men and women's soccer, men and women's tennis, was voted Coach of the Year in 2000 in women's tennis in the Old Metro Conference, kept the score clock and scorebook for men's and women's tennis and for home basketball games, and as a representative from East at the Frank Spencer Tournament and the Western Regionals in basketball. Whereas Mr. Sapp announced the homecoming court and senior night for football and basketball, announced varsity, men's and women's basketball games, has sponsored the Interact Club and the Ping Pong Club, which has done a lot of good in the community because they were a big fundraiser for charitable causes. And I think some of your Ping Pong Club students have gone on to become great successes in their adult lives as well. Has performed in school plays, which, whether it's a speaking role or a non-speaking role, is a big deal to be on the stage. Has called out graduates' names at the graduation ceremony, and has served on the Athletic Hall of Fame committee since its inception. Whereas Mr. Sapp was recognized as Teacher of the Year in 2003, as the most inspirational teacher by the top 10, this award given to him by the students 4 times, and above all, brought a unique sense of humor to the classroom as he navigated an education system with tools that ranged from hand-cranked mimeograph machines to AI and apps, all the while teaching the foundational courses for an informed citizenry. And my mother was an educator, and she had plenty of time with the mimeograph machines as well. You may know them as Ditto. You may know them by the blue ink that smelled kind of funny, but they were what you had to have in the educational system. As Mayor of Kernersville, on behalf of the Board of Aldermen, we hereby recognize Mr. Scott Sapp and congratulate him on East Forsyth High School Studies Retirees Day for 34 years of teaching at East, and for the tremendous positive influence he has had on so many students as a teacher and a coach during his long-time service. And we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Congratulations, Mr. Sapp. Oh my goodness, my heart is just so full. I just think about all of the lives that you touched over the years, and I just appreciate each of you so much. And a lot of the current teachers are in the room as well. We appreciate you, and former teachers. We appreciate all of you and the positive impact you had on so many. And thank you to Jen Watson for helping me organize this. We appreciate you too. All right, if you are here for just this part of the agenda, you are, and the principal's here as well. Thank you for coming and joining us. We appreciate your involvement as well. If you're here for just this part of the agenda, you're free to go. If you'd like to stay, we're going to do an update about the fire, and we're going to go on with our regular agenda after that. So, but we're glad you are all here this evening. Thank you. Okay, Chief Alderman.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and
Good evening.
board members. First, before I make some remarks, I just want to say that our thoughts are with the Caudill Electric family as they continue to recover from the tragic fire that occurred Saturday evening. I also want to take some time to recognize the men and women of the Fire Rescue Department that responded to that incident. They did just such an outstanding job. And it was a very, very challenging situation. As I'm sure you could tell by the pictures, I know that Alderman Thompson was there on scene and seen it firsthand. It was just a very, very challenging situation. And the men and women with the fire department just did such an amazing job as they combated that fire. To make sure not only the fire was put out, but it didn't spread anywhere else. And so my hat's off to them. Yeah, that every day they do a tremendous job, and it just doesn't get noticed until something tragic like this happens, and you really kind of get a good sense of what they do. And I just want you to know you've got a tremendous group at the Fire Rescue Department, and should be very proud of them. I also want to recognize the town departments that helped us out on the incident. The police department, they're an amazing partner. I was just talking to Chief Tilley yesterday about this, and we just have such an amazing partnership with them, and we just can't thank them enough for what they do for us, not only on that incident, but just each and every day. Chief, thank you very much. I also want to recognize our Public Services Department as well. They came out. We had to utilize a backhoe to move debris and extinguish hot spots, and they came out in the middle of the evening to help out with that. And so please share my appreciation with Dorn and all the staff there for helping us out with that. I also want to recognize our partners. We can't combat a fire like this without help, and it really starts with our 911 center. They do an amazing job taking 911 calls, organizing the radio traffic and units, and making sure units get dispatched, the appropriate requests are fulfilled, and it gets very, very hectic, and it's stressful. And so our 911 center here in Forsyth County did an amazing job. I also want to mention on scene, we had Winston-Salem Fire Department, Forsyth County Fire and EMS was there. Beeson's Crossroads Fire Department, Piney Grove Fire Department, Oak Ridge Fire Department, Union Cross Fire Department, and Walkertown Fire Department. They were all on the scene assisting us with mitigation of the fire. We also had Greensboro Fire Department, Hornytown Fire Department, and some other agencies that came and backfilled fire stations for us. So whenever you bring all those resources into one location, it leaves gaps in coverage. And so the other calls are still happening. And so thanks to our partners for not only helping us on the scene, but helping fill in while we were tied up on the fire incident. Today, our Fire Marshal's office issued its final press release regarding this incident. They have finished their investigation, and they have determined that there was a catastrophic electrical event that occurred as a result of a motor vehicle crash that impacted a utility pole and power lines that were in the area. And so that is the cause that we released today. I know there's been a lot of speculation and rumors out there about the incident, but it wasn't until this afternoon that we concluded exactly what the cause was. And I also want to recognize the North Carolina Office of State Fire Marshal. We reached out to them, and they sent out some investigators and some electrical engineers to just verify things that we were seeing and kind of what we thought, and their expertise was very valuable in helping us with that conclusion. And so again, I just want to say thank you so much to this community, to each of you for your support of the Fire Rescue Department, and just, without the support of the community, we couldn't do what we do day in and day out. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I suggest that we all in this room, on behalf of the folks that you represent and serve, Chief Tilley, that you represent and serve, and everybody who's been named above, I think we ought to, this is not just a routine business matter on an agenda. It represented an extraordinary marshaling of the resources of this community. And not only did you do a great job, but I know that you appreciate the support you get from the folks who are watching tonight and listening to us. And I'd like to ask Madam Mayor, if you don't mind leading us in standing an ovation for this.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate the fire department for their efforts in the fire suppression and the response, and also the police department for their efforts in response to the automobile crash, and in support of the fire suppression and public services and all of those agencies that assist it. We're very, very thankful and deeply grateful. Thank you.
Thank
Does anybody have anything else on this? Chris, you were there. Do you have anything to say?
I'll speak briefly. I just kudos to the fire department, everybody that was out there helping, as well as the police department. I've never witnessed anything like that. I usually try to stay non-involved because I know that the last thing that they need is somebody like us in tow behind them when they've got so much going on and leading their teams to take care of the issues they did. They did a great job. It was, again, one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I've never experienced something like that before. And kudos to you guys. You did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update. Mr. Swisher, did you have anything to add? Okay. All right, we will get to the regular agenda. We're at a public session. Our first item is speakers from the floor. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board on an item not included on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item B, which is presentation by Christina Parrish regarding the Kernersville Mural Festival. Ms. Parrish. You're the first person to, well, I guess Chief just spoke from the mic, so just make sure the mic's on.
Test.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you.
You can start with your name and address.
Yes, ma'am. Christina Parrish, address is 1207 Marietta Drive, Kernersville. Mayor Morgan, Board of Aldermen, and community members, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I am Christina Parrish, and I'm a former educator, full-time mural artist, and organizer of the Kernersville Mural Festival featuring Ladies Who Paint. The Kernersville Mural Festival, featuring Ladies Who Paint, is a public event where local women artists come together to celebrate our community by creating large-scale murals on the exteriors of buildings in downtown Kernersville. Historically, the art world, including muraling, has been male-dominated. When women, especially young girls, see female artists creating murals, it can inspire them to pursue careers in the arts, fostering a more diverse and inclusive future in the field. These artists will be simultaneously live painting, allowing the public to watch the creative process unfold, leaving a public art walk after the event is complete. The Kernersville Mural Festival will amplify the creativity of women in the public art setting while spreading art to the Kernersville community. Let me give you a brief history as to why I'm here tonight. On August 1st, 2024, I sent out my first email to employees of the town of Kernersville with preliminary planning information for this event. And by October 28th of 2024, I had a more refined information to the email inboxes of everyone who sits on the Board of Aldermen today. I was put into contact with people like Catherine Garner and Marcy Campbell. I began collaborating with Don Morgan, the Kernersville Chamber of Commerce, and Kernersville Parks and Recreation. During this time, I was given the definition of a sign according to the town's sign ordinance as, let me take a deep breath before this definition. Any form of publicity which is visible from any public way, directing attention to an individual business, commodity, service, activity, or product by means of words, lettering, parts of letters, figures, numerals, phrases, sentences, emblems, devices, designs, trade names or trademarks, or other pictorial matter designed to convey such information and displayed by means of paint, bills, posters, panels, or other devices erected on an open framework or attached or otherwise applied to stakes, posts, poles, trees, buildings, or other structures or supports. However, I was also informed that a mural that does not contain the subject matter of the business in which it was painted would not be regulated as a sign under the town sign ordinance. Moving forward to February 4th, 2025, I came to speak with the board about the event. At this point, I had partnered with the Arts Council of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County as the fiscal agent overseeing the project. I had 44 artists apply to paint in the event, and I had 15 potential wall spaces to be painted. While a government-owned wall was being considered for this event, I did not come to the Board of Aldermen to ask for funding. Instead, this slide was shown during the meeting and was also sent in my follow-up email to the board on February 6, 2025. In both the February 4th Board of Aldermen meeting and in my February 6th follow-up email to each of the board members, I addressed concerns with the historic buildings, the upkeep of the murals, composition of the murals, and was clear within my presentation on how I would move forward with the crowdsourcing of funding to add $80,000 of town beautifying murals to our community. I was clear that I understood that I would provide designs to the town and that I understood that business names or logos would not be incorporated into the designs of the murals, with the exception of a sponsored by line. I provided you and the community with updates as we made these developments. In between my last communication with the board and today, I have witnessed an incredible outpouring of support for this project. Community members gave charitable donations through the Arts Council with the promise and expectation that their funding will go directly to the beautification of our community with public art. Businesses and individuals were treated no differently from one another, all having the chance to sponsor a mural at the level of their choosing. Not only did I witness individuals step forward, but I began to see businesses collaborate with each other and join forces to support murals in our community and instill pride in the town's appearance together. The week of the Kernersville Mural Festival, I proudly shared the artists, final mural designs, locations, and sponsors of each mural with town employees. I was made aware only then that sponsorship logos are considered off-premise signage. Because Kernersville does not have a public art ordinance, each mural and all aspects of each mural must be treated as a sign, despite former communication allowing me to think otherwise. Catherine Garner made the point that I was never made aware in all of my planning and preparation that a business sponsorship would be against the sign ordinance, and there is a lot of nuance to the 500-page UDO. The town employees offered solutions, but none provided recognition of businesses' sponsorship on or near the mural, which would allow for a public attribution of their funding. I proposed my favorite solution to this dilemma, which would be to add placards to the murals that match the existing placards that you can already find throughout Kernersville that are inclusive of business-level donors. The town responded that while the suggestion was well-intended, it would still be considered off-premise signage. The result of this was businesses decided to both withhold and withdraw their sponsorship from the event. This equated to a retraction of $17,000 in town beautification funding. If I were to invest thousands of dollars on public art to beautify my community, I would want to be recognized for my purchase. It is not a game of selfish or not selfish. It becomes about recognizing those that do good things for our community in a way that they appreciate. A business not getting recognized for investing thousands of dollars into their community is simply not a good investment. Because there are no exceptions, variations, or applications that I can complete on my end to move forward with allowing a tasteful addition of a business to a sponsored by line on a mural, I propose the Kernersville Mural Project. You guys should all have this in a printout. While this project would be specific to the Kernersville Mural Festival, it would also be open for the community to apply to. I have kept the application simple and clear so it can be easily added to the town's website. Expectations for designs and sponsorship information are also clear. It is not my intent to hinder the creativity of people wanting to add art to our community with an application and town employee input, but rather make attribution of private sponsors to public space murals accepted by the town of Kernersville sign ordinance. There are many reasons why I feel like this should be strongly considered. Jules Kerner is acknowledged for his Bull Durham murals as one of the first outdoor ad campaigns in American history and one of the most successful. Today, the goal is not to create an advertisement campaign, but to reap the benefits of having public space murals in our community. A University of Warwick study states that murals and creative placemaking efforts contribute to a 4 to 20% increase in property values. The American Planning Association states that businesses near murals report 20 to 30% revenue growth due to increased foot traffic and visitor engagement. A study by the National Endowment for the Arts found that cultural tourists spend 60% more than other travelers, with public art being a major attraction. There are many studies and facts that show positive sides of having murals in a community, but the bottom line is there is simply a life with art and there is a life without art, and I know which life I am choosing. As I speak here today, I don't speak only on behalf of myself. I speak on behalf of the community members that would like to see this for their town and the business owners that were willing to pay to see it happen with proper recognition. On behalf of the Kernersville Mural Festival and the broader creative community, I respectfully request that you consider voting in favor of adding the Kernersville Mural Program as an approved exception to the existing sign ordinance. By making murals and sponsors an exception to the sign ordinance, you will be empowering local artists, property owners, and residents to contribute to the beautification and cultural vibrancy of Kernersville while maintaining the town's visual standards and integrity. The hope is that we can come to a resolution allowing the recognition of our business level sponsors with a sponsored by line well before phase 2 on November 14th, 2025, and that town employees will communicate with me if I am able to continue crowdsourcing funding with business level sponsors as soon as possible. We believe that this program will encourage civic pride, community engagement, and economic vitality, and we hope that the board will support this effort to make Kernersville a more art-forward and welcoming place. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration. I will now turn the mic over to Bruce Frankel.
Bruce Frankel, 114 St. Mary Court. It's nice to see you all, and thank you for the great job you do for this town. I appreciate it. As a follow-up to Christina Parrish's presentation, I just have 3 points that I'd like to discuss. I met Christina when I was conducting a new member orientation for the Kernersville Chamber of Commerce. She had recently joined. During the orientation, I reviewed the many opportunities available to members and how they can get involved in supporting our community. I personally like to highlight the Chamber's success in providing educational grants to our dedicated school teachers, which are funded primarily by our local business community. Every year, our school teachers submit proposals seeking funding for projects to aid their students. The Chamber then selects one teacher per grade in each school to receive the award. I was impressed to learn that Christina had received one of these awards. For those of you,
Bruce, I want to remind you, you have 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll take 3 more seconds now. For those who do not know, Christina was a high school teacher for 8 years at both Glen and North, which brings me to my first point, the significant educational value to children art murals in town can offer. For example, some educators have referenced such benefits as fostering observation and visual literacy, stimulating curiosity and inquiry, encouraging creativity and imagination, promoting cultural awareness and understanding, enhancing language development, connecting art to the real world, fostering a sense of community and belonging, and supporting emotional development. And I can provide you with details about each. The Kernersville community has always placed a high value on educating our children, dating back to 1857, when we built our first public school in the center of town. Population was about 150. Today, our technology has created a controlling attention economy that is grasping our children. We need to promote tools that help foster critical thinking. And my second point is small towns with art murals generate additional visitors. We opened an impressive visitor center at Kernersville last year. One of the reasons why you opened it is to help increase pedestrian traffic in our community for both pleasure and commerce. I know a little bit about tourism. Art murals are an additional attraction and another reason to visit a destination. I don't care if it's for an hour, an afternoon, or visiting a place you might not have been in a while. People appreciate the experience, and please do not underestimate the impact it has on community connection. Murals can serve as a platform for storytelling and making public spaces more reliable and meaningful. That is why visitors stop and take pictures, take selfies, and post them on social platforms promoting their location. There's a reason why Visit North Carolina, the state's tourism website, has a web page featuring towns with murals. As they highlight in their promotion, discover the bright art filling so many of our state's streets, walls, and destinations with color. And the third point I want to discuss is how towns benefit from cause marketing strategies as a way to support local initiatives and projects without directly burdening the town's budget. Cause marketing allows the company to align itself with a specific cause or project and uses its marketing dollars to benefit both the company through enhanced image, customer loyalty, potentially increased sales, and the cause of project it sponsors. I know Ernie Page is trying to maximize sponsorship opportunities to generate revenue to help offset the town's recreation programs as well as maintaining venues. And is a natural way for the town to also use it for arts and culture and historical preservation initiatives. Keep in mind, quality art is not inexpensive and we all want the best. And finally, the small sponsorship plaque that Christina is proposing is more than reasonable. You can barely see it. And I'm sure you can find a way to make this work. You know, in 2011, 14 years ago, I had the privilege to host and promote an art show at the Folly, a 30-year retrospective featuring two of our town's longtime artists, Richard Hitchcock and Raymond Reed. I know if they were here today, they would be strong advocates for these murals and the significance of having them here in Kernersville. And if you find you need to create an ordinance, I will even suggest you can name it after one or both of those two champions. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'm available to answer any questions or assist in any way you can. And thank you, Christina, for this wonderful public art initiative.
Thank you, Bruce, for your comments and for, I'm not sure everyone here on the board is aware that you were a former director of the Kernersville.
Thank you.
So thank you for that as well. All right. Mr. Swisher, I think there's a minute left if you have one more thought, Christina.
I think I've said enough.
Thank you for your comments tonight. Mr. Swisher?
Catherine and I have talked and discussed it. We met with Ms. Parrish as well. It kind of boils down to, it's not as simple as saying there's an exception, putting an exception in your UDO for these type of placards, as she mentions. And it's similar, what she's mentioning is similar to what you see on the benches out in the courtyard. Those would still be considered off-premise signage. And it's what you run into. What we've told her is it doesn't matter how big it is or how small it is. If we allow one on there, 2x2 or whatever it is, someone will come up and say, well, I want to put one on the side of a wall that doesn't have a mural on it that's 4x6. If we allow one that's 2x2 and we don't allow one that's 4x6, you all are familiar with the term arbitrary and capricious. We've then acted arbitrarily and capricious, which could lead, not saying it would, but it could lead to some legal ramifications in that pursuit. Whether it's attached to a mural or not, again, if you put the sign on the mural, sponsored by, and it is a company, someone could come up and want to put the same sign on a wall that has no mural on it. And you can't distinguish between the two. That's the problem that we've got with our sign ordinance. To allow this, it's going to take, and we told Ms. Parrish this the other day, it's going to take more than just the board. And I'm not telling you can't. You can go tonight and say, we don't care, we're adopting an exception to this, and we're going to allow this. You can certainly do that. We'll run it through the UDO, have it back to you all by probably July. So what I'm telling you is that down the road, that may come back and bite you. But if you all decide to do that, that's fine, we'll adopt it and do that. She's correct. When it started out, we told her that, you can't, the sponsor by this and that, can't have logos. I was under the impression that if it was a sign on the side of John Barrow's building, that John Barrow was going to be the sponsor of that. If that's the case, then it can have John Barrow Law, because that is not an off-premise advertising sign. That is on-premise. Where we ran into the hiccup at is that's not the case. There may be a mural on the side of John Barrow's building that's sponsored by Napa Auto Parts. That's when it becomes off-premise signage. So that was where the kind of the disconnect occurred. We saw Catherine actually saw them first. She saw the renderings of what it was going to look like pretty late in the game. And it included the sponsored by. All of the ones, I think, and I can't remember for sure, but I think all of the murals that were on the walls were sponsored by someone other than the company that was in that building. So, don't know where we go from here. The board has some options. You can certainly leave as is with the interpretation that Catherine has given, that you just can't have a company name as sponsored by. I think she has these three. None of these three, I don't think, are sponsored by a company. They're sponsored by individuals. You can leave that, leave it like it is. They can proceed forward without sponsored by a particular company name and the logo of who painted it.
I do have a quick correction. The one on the left is sponsored by a company. I'm just not able to attribute that it is sponsored by Blue Stream Environmental. So they are sponsored by companies, and businesses have put their money to these murals. It's just that we're unable to attribute it to them.
Correct. It doesn't have sponsored by a company on it. I don't know who they're sponsored by, but it doesn't say sponsored by Blue Stream or whoever it is. They're sponsored. If it's sponsored by and it's on there, it's by a person. You can stick with that route. The board could get into public art, which is where the town basically pays for the murals, and then it's not sponsored by anybody. It's the town pays for it. You don't need that. You can change ordinance to allow the sponsored by signs on the murals. We can take that. You can change it, tell us how you want it tonight. We can take that to the planning board, then back to you all. And if it's a simple change that you want, just to say we allow these placards, we can do that. My recommendation is what Catherine and I have discussed, not really a recommendation, but it's another option. What Catherine and I have discussed, what I've discussed with Ed, what we told Ms. Parrish, is that you probably need to do some further investigation into the best way to allow it, if it is allowed. That's how we've done all text amendments before in the ordinance, in the UDO. That's how we've amended the UDO before. Catch with that is it's not likely to be done in time for her second round in November, and it would likely involve outside counsel, which I would recommend Mike Thielen. Mike's done a lot of our work with some rezonings. He's familiar for some other reasons. He's familiar with our sign ordinance. That would be up to the board. You all know at that point, he's not a staff attorney. His services are certainly not free. So you would be paying him to look at that. My opinion is it would take, you might get it back unless it's just something that he comes back. If he comes back quickly and says anything, it's probably going to be, no, I'm not recommending you allow it. So If it takes him a while, he might can come up with a way to allow it. The longer it takes, you all are familiar with what he charges, the more it costs you. So, but that is an option. That would be my recommendation if you decide to pursue it, is to have someone look at it. But that would be up to you all. Again, there are costs involved in that the town would have to bear the cost of that. But that's where we're at. Again, Catherine and myself and Ed, we don't think it's as simple as going in and saying, we're going to do a text amendment to the UDO to allow these placards on the wall, which is kind of what she's requested. We don't think it's that simple. Be glad to do it. If you all vote to do it, we'll be glad to do it. But just to kind of let you know what could happen.
Curtis, if I'm an individual wanting to become one of the sponsors with one of the placards that we're talking about here, what does it cost me to do that, and where does the money go? If you know.
Are you talking about on the murals? I have no idea.
Hang on a minute.
We don't do
Mrs. Parrish, sit down, please.
right now the placards aren't allowed. So I don't know, as far as the murals, what happens with that money. I don't have any idea. I've not asked.
Well, let me ask you then, Ms. Parrish, you've been doing a presentation in support of this
You can
tonight.
come to the podium now.
What does it cost me, if anything, to have my name listed in one of the placards that your design reflects, and who gets the money?
Yes, sir. As of right now, I can show you exactly what our sponsorship levels are. This is in the same slide that I presented at my first meeting with you guys here. To sponsor or become a sponsor of one of these murals, a donation is $40, $2, however much you want to give to get your name placed on the sponsored by line as an individual. The bronze level package starts at $1,500, and that only pays for a portion of these murals. We are paying each of these artists $35 a square foot to paint these murals, and the murals range from, I believe it's $2,300 to $8,400, depending on the size of each mural. I do have a list of those price ranges. If you would like to see that, I can send it to your email.
Who is that money paid to?
The
If I- if I'm-
majority
if
of
I'm
that
buying-
money goes directly into the hands of the artists that are executing the murals. 5% of all of the funding is going to the Arts Council, who is our fiscal sponsor. The rest of the funding goes directly to the artists.
Just to clarify for me, the amount that does not go directly to the individual artist
Yes, sir.
for painting the mural, where does it go?
There is no additional funding at this. So I have budgeted the fundraising efforts to only go towards the payment of the artist. There's no excess at this point. So as of this point, I am actually in the negative $2,700 personally, because we have paid for parts of a mural that did not take place because we had sponsorships pull out. So I guess I'm a sponsor as well. So there's nothing that is put towards anything else other than the execution of these murals. So if you're talking about buying a placard, it would come out of my pockets, because that is not something that I included into the crowdsourcing or fundraising of this event. Right now, sponsors are just painted right on the mural.
Okay. Now, you've been very careful in your wording, as of right now. Can that change?
Do you mean like collection of? Yes, sir.
Excuse me. Can that change who makes a decision on whether to change it or not, and who makes a decision on whether to approve that or not?
Are you talking about the collection of funding?
I'm talking about who's getting the money.
The artists are getting the money, and the Arts Council oversees the project, so they know exactly how much donations come in. They pay out the donations to me, I pay the artists. If you would like to see the income versus output of funding, I can send that all to you as well.
Why don't you, I'm not so much interested in seeing it as knowing conceptually where it goes.
It goes directly to the artists.
Okay.
And to be clear, right, I was intended to paint one of the murals in phase 1, and that would have given me some level of funding myself, but my sponsor has pulled out because they want to be recognized for the funding that they put towards the event. So I don't see $1 of this money until my mural gets funded. Does that answer your question?
No.
Okay. How
When
can I?
When the mural gets funded,
Yes.
how much money do you make on any one of these murals?
On any one of these murals. On my mural, I will make money. On any one of the other murals, I personally make $0. Zero.
Is there any other entity that makes more
The
than
Arts
$0?
Council
Okay.
makes 5% of all funding raised.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
What arts council are you talking about?
The Arts Council of Winston-Salem, Forsyth County.
Have we got somewhere we can go look to, on their website or whatever, to see anything about your business, the way it's set up?
Yes, sir. If you go to the Arts Council page and you go to their fiscal sponsorship page, you can see a list of all of the projects that they are sponsors of, including my own.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Also, if we were to do this, and this question is for you and Curtis, that would allow anybody to paint murals anywhere they could paint them, is that correct?
Correct, but currently, anyway, for the most part, if you wanted to paint a mural on your building,
Right.
and you don't necessarily have to submit that to the town, as long as you stay within the parameters of the sign ordinance and the colors that can be used in the overlay district, and it's not a sign, doesn't come across as a sign, you could do that. And there's really nothing the town could do to stop you. However, if you painted one on your building and it violated the sign ordinance or violated the other regulations of the overlay district, then you would be issued a notice of violation and have to correct that signage. So right now, anybody can do that, but there are parameters within which you have to do it. They could still do it. They can go out and do the mural festival as they want to now, if they don't want to put sponsored by on the mural. Right. There's nothing restricting them from doing that. Is that correct, Catherine? So it's the sponsored, it's specifically the sponsored by part when it's not the businesses in the building. So that's where the holdup is, and that's where it's difficult to make an exception to allow it, because if you make an exception to allow it, as I said, for a small sign, where do you stop? That's the catch.
What do you think it'll cost us to have Mr. Thielen review all of this and give us his legal opinion?
Well, Mr. Thielen
Yeah.
charges about $700 an hour.
Yeah.
Mr. Thielen doesn't work fast sometimes, but he's thorough and good. So if he were, Catherine and I were talking about it today, if he was to look at the entire sign ordinance, which I expect he would want to look at all of it involving off-premise signage. My guess is, Alderman Barrow, you're looking at a minimum probably of 50 hours which is $35,000.
Right. And the taxpayers of Kernersville would have to pay for that, is that right?
Yes, sir,
Unless the Arts Council wants to pick it up.
unless an outside entity would like to pay for it. Now, we could look at it again. Mr. Powell and I and Ms. Garner and I have looked at it, and we've given you our opinion of what we think. So, I think it is at this time, if we go further, recommended to have outside counsel look at that. Any attorney that does this type of work is in about the same price range. So you're looking at $650 to $700 an hour, and my guess is, you're looking at 50 hours at a minimum. So I would say at a minimum 35,000, and you would have to put a maximum on it probably if you wanted to do that, to say not to exceed, because it could go, the sign ordinance is crazy itself, so it could go 2 weeks, and then you're really into some money. You're into some money anyway at 35,000, but.
Ms. Parrish, you want the town to pay that 35,000? Is that what you expect today?
I would prefer that the town put that money into funding public art, honestly. And then there would be no need for a sponsored byline. My intent is for the town to do their job in whatever capacity that means, so that we come to a conclusion that is approved by all, including the community that you vote on behalf of.
I got you. I'll start off by saying I'm not a fan of the way you're doing this, but I'll give you some advice. If other towns are doing it, you probably need to go talk to their town leaders and find out how they do it. That's what I'd do if I was in your spot.
Yes, sir, I have.
You understand? Every town that agrees to do something like this, they have an ordinance that they paid $600 an hour to have some lawyer figure out. That's the problem here. And that's what I think you need to do before you come up and talk to our town people about them doing their job and that type of thing. They are doing their job. That's
Yes, sir.
That's why we're here tonight. But anyway, that would be my suggestion for you. Thank you.
Curtis, I got a question. Why does the artist mural fall in the sign ordinance?
Okay, hang on a second. Christine
Sorry.
can sit down.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Chris.
we're talking. You heard what I said.
Why does it fall in the sign ordinance?
Why does an artist mural that has no signage on it fall under the sign ordinance?
The mural itself does not.
Just the little
It's when you
sponsored
put
by at the bottom.
Correct. Yep. Especially if you were to put the logo of a particular company, then it is a sign. For instance, Walmart. If Walmart was a sponsor of one and you put Walmart's logo on there, then it is a sign.
But there's a set size as to what size, how big that sign with the logo can be, correct?
On an on-premise sign, correct. Our on-premise wall signage, it has a percentage of the building that it can cover. And so, if using John's building again as an example, if he wanted to go on the side of his building and put John Barrow, attorney at law, it has to be within certain parameters of a size. We don't have that for off-premise signage on buildings because it's not allowed.
This seems like a crazy conversation, if you ask me. I like the art on the downtown. First of all, I was not really happy with it before I saw the murals on the wall. I think it looks great. There's got to be some kind of compromise where we're not having to worry about getting legal counsel to try to figure this out for us, that we can figure out ourselves. As far as the murals, can you not put a number on the bottom of the murals and reference that number on a website, similarly to what you just had up here, that you have each mural numbered for sponsorships?
If you have a question for Christina, I'll have to
Yes,
come back
and
up.
if you don't mind, I'm sorry, I should have addressed you that way, but is there not some balance that you could put mural number one and put it on the website and put it sponsored, would that not be acceptable?
I did suggest a QR code to be placed on the bottom, but a QR code is still a emblem, device, design, or figure or numeral, which would point to another business. So even saying mural number one featured on this website, it would still point indirectly to a business name. So I was told no already to that.
So that's not acceptable either. Yeah, that's it. Well, then it sounds like we need to me, I don't understand why it wouldn't make, I mean, I agree with what Bruce said. I've been to Aruba. Every time we go to Aruba, we go downtown Aruba and just drive around and look at the murals. I think we go down there to look at the murals. It's exactly what we do. And we've seen them several times. We still go back to look at them. Surely there's got to be some compromise that this can work downtown. These murals look 10 times better than a lot of the side of these buildings that haven't been painted, that nothing's been done to, or there's mortar coming out of the side of the brick. That's just my opinion.
John makes a good point about checking out other cities that have similar situations. Could we not, in the spirit of trying to compromise with this situation, could we not, as a town, take on that responsibility of checking out other towns and see how they work through a situation like that in hopes of maybe coming up with a compromise?
We can, and Catherine has looked at several of them. We can certainly look at some more. A lot of them have a public art policy where the municipality or the county or whoever pays for it, and then it doesn't need a sponsored by. We can certainly look at some other municipalities that have murals on their walls in and around that area and see what they do. It could be that they have a different sign ordinance altogether as it pertains to off-premise advertising. So we could do that. I don't know that we can have that done in time for her to start crowdfunding for her next event in November. We can certainly try, because where we're at is, you know, if it ends up being a text amendment, it goes to the planning board, then comes back to you all. So we have to have 30 days before it goes to the planning board and then comes back. We can certainly look at that and try. And as you mentioned, I mean, I like the murals. I don't have a problem with them. I like the three that she's done. One of the solutions is paint them without the sponsor by. I don't think that's a solution for her. And it's also, you could paint them and have the businesses that is in the building sponsor it. I mean, that is a solution as well. I don't know if I just don't know. I don't know enough about the inner workings of how that works with sponsorships, but that is one solution. But we can certainly look at those other municipalities and counties. If the board would like for us to proceed in that direction, we can do that. We probably won't need outside counsel to do that. We can certainly do that and kind of bring something back to the board. I don't know that it will, don't know that it will be in time for crowdsourcing, but we can try. When is your deadline for the funding for round two? I forgot what you told me.
The second event will be done the weekend of November 14th. We will likely have to stop fundraising the 2 weeks before that to give artists adequate time to get their 3 designs to the wall donors.
And when would you start fundraising by? As soon as,
We already have. It's continuously open. It's just have been vocal about, if you are a business that is donating, that you will not be getting recognition on the mural. You could get your family's name, but not your business name.
So to meet that, you all would probably, if it's going to be changed, you all would probably need to vote on it at one of your September meetings. Possibly your first October meeting, which puts it at the planning board September, meaning we'd have to know something by end of July. Is that correct?
That gives us about 60 days, right?
Correct.
That sounds reasonable to me, that we should be able to come up with something in that 60-day time frame. I would think.
We would have to look, we'd have to find something, recommendation, bring it back to you all at the end of July. So we can get it to the planning board in September. Yeah, we can look and see what we can find.
I'd be in favor of looking into that to try to see how we can make this work. I've got another question. Is it, so, you probably just said this, and forgive me, Christine, if you don't mind coming back to the podium, but this is a sticking point with your donors. Do you feel like you're not getting donors because they're not gonna get recognized? I know everybody wants to be recognized, but.
Not only am I not getting donors because they're not getting recognized, they have retracted
Gotcha.
donations.
Gotcha.
So I have had to reimburse.
Right, I'm sorry, I make you repeat
That's
yourself.
all right.
Thank you.
I got one more question, and this is for Ms. Parrish. I see your screen is up here, tells what it costs to do everything. When somebody paints a picture on somebody's building, how long does it stay there for the money they pay?
We did discuss this last time. I give a loose prediction of 10 years, and that is simply because the warranty on the paint can that you would buy at any store is 10 years.
Okay, that's not exactly what I meant. What I meant is, if you put this picture on the side of somebody's building, and then somebody else comes along and wants to pay you to put a different picture on the building, what's to prohibit them from doing that?
There is nothing preventing them from doing as long as it's private property. So for the sake of this event, the contract that's in place says that the wall donor has to keep it up for 2 years, in which case it can be painted over, just so that we have 2 years to celebrate the mural.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay.
2 years.
You know, I feel compelled, Madam Mayor, to just offer an observation. It is not an unreasonable, Ms. Parrish, your expectation or request that the town participate in funding the arts. You know, that's not an off-the-wall request. But there's some vehicles with which to produce that money that will enable these types of projects to be done. I would respectfully submit to you that what the citizens of Kernersville expect us to provide in terms of services are fire trucks and police officers controlling traffic and preventing fire from spreading to adjacent buildings like we, had the potential of seeing in Bodenheimer. It's a matter of priorities. We can't do it all. We don't think the people who elected, I don't think the people who elected us want us to try to do it all, because there's so many worthwhile projects that we could undertake and underwrite. So it's not a matter of our not being supportive of the arts. It's not a matter of our being unappreciative of your efforts and your passion. Without that, this project wouldn't be in front of us tonight. But it is a matter of prioritization and alternative funding sources. So I would just submit to you that there are expectations of the town that may be interpreted as being of a higher priority. And if we can't do it all, we can't do it all. But that doesn't mean we don't support the arts, and that doesn't mean that we don't appreciate what you're doing. Please understand that. I just want to offer that.
Okay, is there anything else on this topic?
No, just
Mr.
one.
Penix?
I've just got one question, and
Okay.
maybe I missed it. Say we're using John Barra's building as an example. But if his building was being used, does he have any control over what goes up there?
He's a wall donor. But Christina, can you explain it?
Yes, sir. So any person who agreed to participate as a wall donor has no monetary responsibility for sponsoring their murals. They're simply saying, you can use my wall. They're under contract. They understand their responsibilities. every wall donor was matched with their artist based on their selection of their top 10 artists. And each artist, once their mural is funded, has to provide that wall donor with 3 designs to choose from, and then 2 rounds of revisions. So most of the artists had conversations with the wall donors to say, what's your expectation? But those artists were selected based on their portfolio. So they did, when they applied, they submitted what they usually create as far as their artwork goes. And then the wall donor got to talk to them about, I really liked this artwork of yours, which is why I selected you as my top 10. And then the artist creates designs specifically for that wall space.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That explains it. Thank you.
Sorry, one more question, sorry. So technically, if we're gonna have to spend 60 days trying to figure out how to work this out, that doesn't really slow you down unless you can't put a sponsor on the mural, correct? You can still paint murals as many as you wanted to.
Correct. I'm just not getting as many community members involved as I thought I would. A lot of the businesses that were becoming sponsors were paying for entire murals straight out, which is not happening anymore. But that's not to say it slows us down as far as crowdsourcing goes. It just slows us down in the business sponsorship levels.
Gotcha. So you don't have any anonymous donors?
No.
Okay, thanks.
So, it's not right. I got a question popped up. I'll go ahead and address it. I had someone email a question in, wanted to know how a specifically carved out exception for an arts initiative would be considered arbitrary and capricious. If you make the exception and you say it's only allowed, and you say the exception is a 2x2 sign only allowed for murals, the arbitrary and capricious part will come in when somebody says, well, how come I can't have a 4x4 sign? And how come I can't have it on something that's not a mural? It's got to be content neutral. They would challenge the size limitations, and they would challenge why it's only allowed on murals. So you got content neutral as well as the arbitrary and capricious. Not saying you can't carve out an exception, but when you do, someone comes in and challenges that exception. That's a lot of the challenges we get at the Board of Adjustment. It deals with something totally different, but that's kind of the reason for that. So I had that question pop up on the email, wanted to address it before I moved on. So it's what I'm hearing. I think the board would probably need to vote on it, is for us to look at it, staff to look at it, and try to get something back to you in 60 days. Not saying that it's going to be something that says, hey, this is a way to allow this, but we'll research what other municipalities and other counties do and bring it back to you and see if there's a way that we think that can be applied to the town in a way that won't get us in trouble from a legal standpoint. If someone makes that motion, I think we probably need to make a motion on it, and then we'll have
Make that
direction.
motion to move forward with seeing how we can make this work out.
And I second it.
Okay, I've got a motion by Chris Thompson, second by J.R. Gorham. All in favor? All opposed? And so our goal is to have this at the last meeting in July. Okay, last week of July. Are you in town that week?
I don't believe I am, but I'll send a representative if I can.
Okay, thank you.
Now, question, Madam Mayor.
Yes. Let's double check the meeting schedule. Do we have a meeting that week? Or would it be the first week of August? Keith is the keeper of all meeting dates. We start dodging National Night Out and 4th of July and other holidays, so.
We have a meeting scheduled on August 5th. We do not have one at the end of July.
So August 5th. August 5th meeting, sound good to everyone? Okay. So that's a little more than 60 days.
Madam Mayor, in the meantime, what happens with the preferred schedule to proceed with painting murals on the side of buildings? Do we hold that in abeyance and not do anything to circumvent the sign ordinance until we've had a chance to do our homework on a staff level?
So there's certain murals that can already be painted,
Yeah,
so that wouldn't change that.
just didn't.
But Mr. Swisher, you may be able to respond to Bill's question better than I.
If you'll repeat the question, I couldn't hear quite the
Well,
last part of it.
What does she do in the meantime?
What should she do in the
What
meantime?
what should she do in the meantime? Do more murals get painted with or without plaques? How does she proceed?
That's up to her. Again, she can paint murals. She's free to paint murals as long as they meet the parameters of the sign ordinance and overlay district. She can paint them all day wherever she wants to. But again, we're talking about the sponsored by part on that sign.
And she cannot proceed, though, as assuming that we're going to approve that exception.
I would not. I mean, she's welcome to do it, but if I was her, I probably wouldn't.
She
no.
could end up with a notice of violation if she proceeds.
And the notice of violation will go to the property owner,
Yeah,
not her. So they would have a notice of violation, and I think after, 7 days, it's $100 a day? 10 days, it becomes $100 a day. So free to do that, but if it's deemed an off-premise sign, or even, and let me be clear, if the person that paints the mural has a logo and they put their logo on there, it's the same thing.
still an off-premises sign.
So, I mean, but she's free to do that. I would just recommend leaving the part off about sponsored by and any logos. And if she's going to do that and has something that's questionable as to whether it is or isn't, I would suggest probably sharing it with Ms. Garner and letting her look at it before she does it. Because again, it's not her that will be fined. It'll be the property owner.
And we may do something about it, but I don't think it's safe to invest. And I wouldn't play those numbers if it were me, but that's just me. I don't speak for anybody else up here.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Is there anything further on this issue? We've used all the speakers from the floor time on this issue. I'm sorry. Thank you. Send us an email, okay? All righty. We will, thank you, Christina, for your presentation. All right, we will be moving on to item C, but I didn't see an attachment. Does this mean we're not considering it tonight?
No, ma'am. If the board, we're going to put it on next Tuesday, correct? If the board will just withdraw it or take it from this agenda and table it to next Tuesday.
Okay, can I have a motion to move consideration of an ordinance for budget amendment number 8 to the agenda for next week, Tuesday?
So moved.
Got a motion by Bill, second by Alderman Barrow. Oh, second by Alderman Thompson. Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. So Alderman Apple made the motion. Mayor Pro Tem Thompson seconded it. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right. So the consent agenda. If the board adopts this, item C, Mr. Pittman, you could stay after you and I can execute it. It requires us to be sworn, do it in a little ceremony with the clerk, but we can get it out tonight. There's a consent agenda. All of the following matters are considered to be routine by the Board of Aldermen and will be enacted by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the matter will be removed from the consent agenda and considered under the following item. A, approval of minutes for the April 1st, 2025 closed session. B, consideration of a lease with the Kernersville Women's Club. And C, consideration of an application for a justice assistance grant. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to see any of these items removed? All right, any board member or staff? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Second.
second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right. Item 4 is briefing on the June 3rd meeting agenda. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor, you start the agenda, you have 4 public hearings, I think. You have, first one's a rezoning from HBS to HBC. That's down at South Main Street and Central Place Boulevard. You then have an amendment to the Kernersville Development Plan, which goes along with the rezoning that comes after that. That is for a rezoning RS20 to RM5 on Smith Edwards Road. And if I understand correctly, that is in our ETJ, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
And he is not asking for annexation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then the last public hearing is on the fiscal year 25-26 operating budget, which was released on Friday and that you all have as well. Then you have the public session, item B in the public session, consideration of proposed improvements to the signal poles and pedestals at Big Mill Farm Road and US 421. You may remember we discussed this in some detail about all the improvements at that intersection. Initially, there was not going to be a stoplight when you got off at 421 or Salem Parkway and came up to Big Mill Farm Road. They revisited their traffic study and determined that might need a stoplight there. So they are going to put a stoplight there. This is for the board to either approve or deny upgrading the poles to the black poles to match the other ones. You'll have the powder coated black with the pedestals, which will match the ones at Big Mill Farm and Hopkins Road, if the board chooses to do that. If not, they will install the metal strain poles that you see in other places. Then you have the consent agenda, 2 sets of minutes, and 2 resolutions declaring the badge and service weapon for David Brown and Mark Blair as surplus, as both of those guys will be retiring here in a short time. And that is all on the agenda for Tuesday.
It's a good thing the NCDOT changed their mind about the light there. It reminds me of the exit off of I-40 to Union Cross that is now a diverging diamond interchange that was an exit with no signalization at one point. So it's not looking very forward to not put a signal in that location of a brand new interchange in that location with however many people be coming through there, going towards the shopping areas of Walmart and Lowe's Home Improvement and back and forth with residential areas. So it's up to the board to decide if we want to keep up with the decorative. I think it would be a good idea given how well received Salisbury Street Bridge has been and some of the other improvements we've done. All right. Any questions about the upcoming agenda? Or the public hearings? All right, that brings us back to tonight and the town manager's report.
Well, I have one thing. Wanted to update the board on the Parks and Recreation, the event center and the fields. Ernie has started tracking the economic impact of all the events that take place at the event center as well as the fields. As you all know, we now have taken back over the fields, so we do lease the soccer fields out for some events as well as the baseball field. So since January, that's when we started tracking it when the building opened. We've had 10 events in the building, 12 events, basically baseball or softball tournaments at the baseball fields. It's produced, and I'll tell you the numbers after I tell you what it's produced. It's produced $2,291,907 in economic impact. And that's not revenue to town, but that's economic impact. And that is just strictly based on using counting the meals. So it's what we've had, as Ernie figures, $9 for breakfast, 10 for lunch, and $15 for dinner, which is pretty conservative. Not sure dinner you can go out really and eat for $15 a person. But we've had 39,281 folks at those 22 tournaments from outside of Kernersville. So that's since January. It's 2.2 million is produced in direct revenue to the town. We collect field rentals, building rental, concessions, and parking is produced right at $100,000 since January. So, you know, that's tracking pretty good, about where we figured, a little bit ahead of schedule. And that's using just the baseball fields. That's not, I don't rents the fields from us and has a soccer tournament. That's just the tournaments that the town hosts and puts on. So, and he's tracking that every month, and I'll update the board on it every couple months, every quarter. So that's all I have. Be glad to answer any questions regarding that or anything else the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Swisher. All right, Mr. Powell, do you have any matters to be presented tonight?
I don't have a report tonight, Madam Mayor, but we do have need for a closed session.
Okay, thank you. All right, matters to be presented by the mayor and board of aldermen. Chris, would you like to start?
Yeah, I have nothing, thank you.
Okay, thank you. John? Bill?
I have nothing, but I do have one question. Keith, I think, published an email today asking for those of us who would like to have a fob that gets us in the parking lot at the recreation building to let him know. Are there any of us who would not like to have one? I'm thinking we can simplify a lot of traffic for him if we can just tell him if we don't want it. I'd like to have one, you know, and I hate to require him to respond to 5 or 6 emails if he doesn't have to.
We get one made for everybody.
Usually when you have to get in, it's like last minute. Maybe not planned. So that's a great idea, Bill. All right, Mr. Gore?
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Penix?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, I have a card. I wrote email address down for you, so I'll hand that to you before you go. At this time, though, we will be going to closed session, so let me go ahead and trip over Bill over here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I hereby make a motion pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 to enter into closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged and pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualification, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or condition of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee, or to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance by or against an individual public officer or employee.
I have a motion and a second. A motion by Alderman Gorham, second by Alderman Barrow. All in favor? It's unanimous. welcome back to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Is there any further business before this board? Okay, if so, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Had a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson, second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.